This is the second of the 11th 2024. The time is 10:05, and there are very many F1 threads at which we need to pull this morning. It's getting techie. Of course, we've got to talk about some Franco Colapinto. There is rumour that he's already signed a contract with Red Bull Racing, not VCOB. Red Bull Racing alongside one Maximilian Verstappen for 2025. We will get into it. We've got to talk about swearing gate because Charles has got a fine very different to the one that Max Verstappen got for saying the same thing only 2 weeks earlier. Lando Norris has said about Max Verstappen and the rivalry for the 2024 WDC that he doesn't care, and Max Verstappen has spoken about something about which he cares not to. Let's get into it. First on the docket, you guys are legends. William Franco. Visual, living on the edge. Let's get into it. It's not a second to waste, is there? Because Charles Leclerc dropped the F-bomb post Grand Prix, post the Mexican Grand Prix, and apologised immediately. It was innocent. It was a slip. It's Charles Leclerc, right? Cute as can be. And for that, the FIA leveraged at that fella a €10,000 fine with a €5,000 suspended. Max Verstappen, however, for saying the same thing, dropping a cheeky F-bomb only a couple of weeks earlier when referring to his RB20 iteration of machinery. He dropped the F-bomb and he got community service. Now, look, €10,000 as far as a fine for these drivers is nothing. That's barely drinks money, right? These guys are getting millions per year. What is not drinks money is community service, because that's time. So Max Verstappen will be arguing every single day of the week that he got a harsher punishment. But why did he get a harsher punishment? Well, the FIA said this. There was mitigation as far as Charles Leclerc, the cuddly one, is concerned. The man, some say, is modern day journalese. Why? Well, because they consider the mitigation factor that Charles was immediately apologetic. It was an innocent mistake, the FIA continue. The stewards, while noting that the drivers' contrite behaviour, conclude that a breach has occurred and a penalty is warranted. The stewards do not consider that this breach reached the same level as most recent case, and as such they levy a fine of €10,000 with €5,000 suspended pending no repeat within 12. What about, honestly, I cannot. I cannot with these guys. You want to say that Max has had his tinfoil cap on for the longest time, that he's talked all this British bias stuff, that it's nonsense that he's been victimised by the F1. You argue devil's advocate in the name of being balanced, and then something like this happens and makes a mug of you. It proves Max Verstappen was right all along. Listen, here's what we do as far as a regulatory body, if indeed regulatory capture is not a thing, and we prioritise robust processes, instituting the rules and regs consistently across all related parties. Rewrite the rules. Make sure you minimise the amount that they can be interpreted. Why are we interpreting rules? A rule is a rule is a rule. If you swear, this is what you get. Mitigating circumstances, be damned. This is nonsense, ladies and gents. I feel like this is a new low for the FIA. And if they can't get this right around swearing and be consistent around this, there is no grey area, by the way, here. How can we expect them to be consistent when it's overtaking, when it's action and wheel-to-wheel automotive pugilism on track? I will answer that question for you. We cannot. Stewards change from race to race. Johnny Herbert is the only steward being kept on between this race and the last. Ergo, opinions are going to change. Rules, however, and they need to get this sorted out. This is a $1 billion sporting enterprise, a franchise in the one that F's, and they and we deserve better. What are we doing here, ladies and gents? Max Verstappen sounds like he was right to call out the bias, at the very least inconsistent treatment amongst drivers for doing the same thing. Max Verstappen gets community service, Charles Leclerc gets a €10,000 fine. What are we doing, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, and by the way, lots of drivers, not least Lando Norris, are talking about how they don't care. Lest we forget that Juan Pablo Montoya has implored Lando Norris to stop Lando knowing it. Be a bit more ruthless, therefore, face down the adversity, the whirlwind that Max Verstappen brings with him. That's what many F1 fans are imploring him to. And that's what one legend of Formula One, Juan Pablo Montoya, too implores him. He says as follows: I thought Lando was going to step up and take Max out. He needs to do that at some point. Draw a line in the sand. Max takes the PISS on how far he takes things, says Juan Pablo. The only way to stop him is to run him over. And many people have said that about Lando Norris, but this weekend Lando Norris cuts a very different figure as far as his approach, his mannerisms, his countenance. He seems like he is, at least as far as introspectively, that potentially Lando Norris has drawn the line, and that now that the delta between Messrs Norris and Verstappen in the championship is 47 points, Lando, it feels at least like he's turned a corner. Here's what Lando had to say when asked about Max and his qualifying performance. I don't care. I hate these questions so much. I'm just going to race. I don't care where Max qualifies. For me, it's just about focusing on my own job. That's it. It's the same question that I get every time. It doesn't matter if he's first, if he's last. I, Lando Norris, do the best job that I can. And I'm here for it, ladies and gentlemen. Finally, we have ourselves a Lando Norris that talks and looks and feels like a World Drivers' Champion. Now, whether that transposes itself on his performance going forward, has upside downstream ramifications, it remains to be seen. We will see in a couple of hours at the sprint race. Although he has rear guard, for once Max Verstappen isn't immediately breathing down his neck as far as the grid in the sprint race. Oh, and by the way, Lewis Hamilton has said on Ferrari that he looks keenly on their ability to win races. That's 5 this season, 2, the last 2 back-to-back. Lewis Hamilton says he's very interested to see Ferrari progress. Front and centre of mind is the fact that he will be joining them next season in 2025 to drive alongside one Charles Leclerc, aka modern-day Jean Alesi. Only a couple of months ago, when Mercedes, the boys and girls from Brackley and Brixworth, won at Silverstone, it looked like they were on the up and up. They went back-to-back, if I recall, and then many Mercedes and Sir Lewis fans said, oh my gosh, Lewis has made the wrong decision. Why is he going across to the red team? However, by dint of Carlos Sainz's not insubstantial technical expertise and feedback, it looks like Ferrari are doing one of these right at the right time. Lewis Hamilton's timing as far as his moves has always been immaculate, notwithstanding F1 aficionados across the board saying that he's making wrong decisions, ill-advised. This was the same thing when he left McLaren to join Mercedes. Oh, the humanity, everybody said. Why would you leave McLaren to join Mercedes? What do you mean, a fledgling team who have no experience in recent memory of Formula One? Why would you do that? And then Lewis goes and makes that one work. Potentially he sprinkled his magic timing dust on this decision to move from Mercedes now to Scuderia Ferrari, because they look like they're doing well. Maximilian Verstappen was asked about this, whether his move, Sir Lewis Hamilton's move to Ferrari, how that affects him. What does he think about it? Is it good for him getting the GOAT, the 7-time champion, in the red car? Max was asked this by Sport Build, and he responded, I do not care. Max said this, the killer that he is, the ruthless one. He said, because I want to beat every driver from every car, it doesn't matter whether Lewis is in a red or silver car. I can understand, of course, continues Max, that there's a lot of interest in the move. It's a good thing for Formula One, the story arc, the plot lines. It will be interesting to see how he and Charles work together within a team. Max Verstappen, I feel like, taking a sly dig to conclude that potentially there'll be friction and rancor between Charles Leclerc and Lewis, particularly if there was a championship there to be won by dint of their god-tier race-winning machinery. Oh, and by the way, Franco Colapinto, Time Walther, William, Barack. It's getting techie, this Franco Colapinto. I mean, listen, let me set the scene first and foremost. As long as I've been watching Formula One, it's reminiscent of Ayrton Senna. The force of nature as far as his marketing power. I can't remember, other than Senna, maybe Sebastian when he first came in. This dude brings with him an absolute storm of material consequence as far as his marketing upside. 3 million is how many Instagram followers that chap has. And he's only just stepped out of F2. Alex Albon, his teammate, has done 100 plus races in F1. Much liked up and down the grid and by the F1 communities, Alex Albon, the Anglo type. And he only has 2.9 million Instagram followers. That's all that you need to know about this dude's marketing potential. Carlos Slim, keen to transpose his not insubstantial finance resource from one Checo Perez onto Franco Colapinto. It's the smile, it's the good looks, it's the charisma in the interview, reminiscent of a modern day Jean Alesi, aka Charles Leclerc, but he talks better, he commands an audience, he works a room better than Charles Leclerc. This has got to count for something, and this feels like it's the marketing elixir, especially if this dude can drive. Now look, everybody rates Alex Albon. He's a good one. Drove for Red Bull once upon a time. Would have had a couple race victories potentially in his back pocket. But for a cheeky wheel-to-wheel exchange with one Sir Lewis Hamilton, 2 of them, everybody rates Alex Albon really highly. And if F1 maths is a thing, then you can assume that Franco Colapinto, by dint of his not insubstantial performance over the past 3 races at the beginning of his F1 career, then that dude could potentially be an F1 world champion going forward. If this is him after 3 or 4 races, what's he going to look like after 100? You can only assume if, again, his line of travel, his growth is linear even. Mate, he's going to be incredible, right? He will have championships, and there is a story to tell here. Talk to anybody that lives in Argentina, and economic struggles isn't something they're not used to. And again, they're desperate for one to rise. Again, not dissimilar to Ayrton Senna. Brazil at the time was struggling on its economic knees, and some might say that Argentina is the same. They are dying for somebody who they can root for, a la a Carlos Reutemann or a Juan Manuel Fangio. It's been a long time since Argentina had themselves a Formula One star. Yes, Messi is there, and of course he won the World Cup, and he's the greatest footballer that many of us have ever seen. But in the Formula One space, it has been a while. Argentina are starving for a Franco Colapinto, and that's why this dude is ticking all the boxes. Go and listen to Kim Illman, who does the photography on the paddock, and he will tell you that when this dude walks up and down, it looks like the Beatles are playing. That's the type of fanfare that comes with a Franco Colapinto. He's doing different things, and if he can drive, if that dude can start winning races, if he's given the wheels requisite to do such a thing, it, ladies and gentlemen, is absolute chaos. We talked the other day about potentially him superseding one Checo Perez, as Checo Perez is turfed out. The anticipation was that this was going to happen as at the Brazilian Grand Prix. There's been a U-turn, a change in tone and intonation from Christian Horner and Helmut Marko. Rumour is that they're potentially going to keep him to the end of the season. But after that is where the real story is. What happens to Franco Colapinto? Because he doesn't have a drive, not a contracted one at least for 2025. He's contracted with Williams, states that he's going to be a reserve driver for 2025. Franco Colapinto can't be anybody's reserve driver. All related parties know this. Liberty Media understand this. The Checo Perez furore has done one of these. The Mexican Minister of Defense is no longer. So who's going to take on the mantle going forward for Latin America? Who? South America. Who's going to do that? Franco Colapinto. That's who. He's going to take on from what Checo Perez, all of Checo Perez's good work, growing growth markets in both North America and South America, selling lots of Red Bull energy drinks. Franco Colapinto, I might argue, is that next one to take the mantle from Checo Perez as far as growing F1 as a market, as a sports franchise in North and South America. He is that dude. So what's going to happen to him? Well, here's what's going to happen to him. Liberty Media are keen to make sure that that dude is not a reserve driver as at 2025. He can't be. His marketing power is too substantial. The opportunity cost of losing him back to bloody F2 or an IndyCar or a NASCAR or another Formula LMP2 et al. is too high. And Liberty Media and all F1 related parties, key stakeholders, are acutely aware of this. That's why you saw Christian Horner coming out from the Williams garage James Vowles spoke about the negotiation, that they're negotiating Franco Colapinto's future with a very many parties, and until he gets something substantial, potentially as at the Las Vegas Grand Prix this year, he cannot reveal more, because the operation, the negotiation even, is sensitive in real time. But here's what an Argentinian journalist has to say. The same Argentinian journalist, by the way, that leaked that Franco Colapinto will be driving for Williams, replacing one Logan Sargent. Here's what that chap's had to say. Ruben Deray reports the Planet, the F1's. Late on Friday, Argentine journalist Ruben Deray posted on the A Todo Motor social media channel to claim Colapinto has already been signed for Red Bull. I wish that he'd put a timestamp on that. Are we talking about 2024, 2025? But I digress. He says more than a month ago, A Todo Motor gave you the absolute scoop that Colapinto was going to be in Formula One until the end of the year, courtesy of his drive with Williams. Well, today's Friday, and I'm letting you know, continues Ruben, that at this moment, Colapinto is already Red Bull's number 2 driver for 2025. What does that mean, Ruben? What are we talking about? Is that RB Visa Cash App, or is that alongside one Maximilian Verstappen? Oh, the humanity. That changes everything, and I wish we could get more detail, but he leaves us to speculate. He says, an exclusive scoop of A Todo Motor. I'm really happy that as an Argentine, Franco Colapinto is in a team as important as Red Bull. Now, is he talking about the Red Bull family, 2 teams, or is he talking specifically about Red Bull racing alongside Max Verstappen? Because here's what's going to happen if we're doing our speculation and playing hypothetical games. Checo Perez, granted, he says that his contract is airtight for 2025, potentially. I understand, as far as Checo Perez's contract, that it isn't a traditional Red Bull Racing family contract, meaning that he can't be demoted. He has it written, okay, so there are performance clauses, meaning that he can get sacked if indeed, as at the summer break, he's more than 100 points or more than 5 places shy of his teammate in the championship, which he was. So you have that performance clause, of course. But what they can't do is take him out and put him in an RB Visa Cash App car. Checo Perez's contract is unique in that sense. He's not a traditional Red Bull racing driver. That's what I understand. Meaning, therefore, if we're analysing the lie of the land and trying to assess what Red Bull Racing's driver portfolio will look like in 2025, here is my supposition. One of Liam Lawson or Franco Colapinto will get the seat alongside Max Verstappen, potentially Franco because of his not insubstantial marketing power. Carlos Slim might not give him the sponsorship approval, and Red Bull, if indeed Franco Colapinto is racing for RB Visa Cash App, right? Doesn't make sense. If you have this marketing demon, this marketing bellwether, a panacea per se, you put him in the big job. Now, that comes with downside ramifications, because not too many drivers, if any ever, sans Carlos Sainz Jr., have sat alongside one Maximilian Verstappen and fared well. Please see as you exhibit A, Daniel Kvyat, B, Alex Albon, C, Pierre Gasly. It doesn't work out well for these drivers that dare to be great and sit alongside Maximilian Verstappen in the same car. Whether Franco Colapinto can be different, here's hoping, it would be an absolute king's gambit, a queen's sacrifice declined even of a move if indeed they put a young 21-year-old Franco Colapinto in his maiden voyage in the big seat along one Maximilian Verstappen. But this is what this chap, this Argentine journalist, well reputable, is saying might happen. Oh, Franco Colapinto. There is news and there is story arcs as we go into the Brazilian Grand Prix. And that news, that story arc has a name. Its name is Franco Colapinto. Oh, the humanity. I'm hoping, I'll be honest with you guys, I'm rooting for the chap because he has everything but race wins. But again, if you're talking about capability, looking at what he's done so soon in his F1 career, who am I to argue in earnest, in good faith, that he doesn't have that upside potential in his locker? New ball game for Colapinto if he can drive well in that. Can you imagine, Kayla? Can you just imagine? I mean, if F1 is a story told in tense, then this story arc is next level, completely different. There is a better chance of hell freezing over than Checo leaving. Not leaving Miami, being sacked for 2025. Go on then, we'll end on this. They can't keep Checo Perez. They cannot. I don't care how watertight Checo Perez says his contract is. It doesn't matter. Chap, you've been underperforming versus expectation for the longest time now. It's been circa 24 months that you've been nowhere. Yet again, he doesn't even get into key. Like, he's just all over the shop. All over the shop. Again, it's not his underperformance, but the extent and the frequency of it. Now he's jeopardising more than just his own career. 40% of the workers over at the Bulls that are red. That's how much bonus he's going to lose them by virtue of the fact that he is wholly responsible for them not winning the constructors. Oh, you're being too harsh on Checo. Am I? Max Verstappen is winning the drivers roundly comprehensive to the tune of 47 points. Where is Checo Perez then? He is losing the Red Bull Championship, the Constructors one. Of course he is. And again, that's got to count for something as far as the team's morale. If you're costing me money, if you're costing the team money, and if there's over here, there is a bright, nice shape that looks and feels like Franco Colapinto, then you're going to do that each and every single time. Then that's why you see Christian Horner walking out of the Williams garage, because he's negotiating for it in real time. There is a story arc in Formula One, a whirling dervish, a force of nature, an Argentine chap. He has a name, ladies and gents, and his name is Franco Colapinto.